As we look at this project, we see that we have a project description document. And this document just allows us to lay out some of our ideas, some of our goals. So when you begin thinking about a game project, one of the first things that we want to do is we want to start writing down some notes, just some basic notes about the project that we're going to work on. What is this project going to be? How many assets is this going to have? How much time will we spend on this project? Write down even some estimates of the amount of time that you expect to spend on the project. We also want to look into the mechanics, the basic game mechanics. How will the controls be? What kinds of things are going to happen to the player? What is it that we want the player to achieve inside of the game? As this is an early learning project, we'll keep a simple document for capturing our ideas and our goals. And as you can see here, we have just that. Let's take a closer look at it and see what the needs of this project is. So as we look over here in the Edit panel, we can see that we've got a project description. And the project description is just simply talking about this document that we're actually writing. Below that we have some learning objectives. Because this is an educational style game, we are looking at what is it that I as a developer am going to try to learn out of this project. How do I want to improve my skill set? For us, we're going to be looking at an introduction to the file management and the assets and asset creation and working with assets inside of Unity. We're going to be looking at an introduction to game scripting. We're going to be looking at an introduction to the GUI elements, applying GUI elements and HUD elements to the screen. We're going to be looking into the introduction of using the API for the input and working with events and for scene loading. So whenever you start a project, especially early on with projects, you want to make sure that you are outlining not just the game project itself, but what is it by the end of this game project that's going to improve your skill set and make you a better developer by the end of it. The next thing that we're going to look at is the production time. In the production time, we have just a few basic things. These are the assets mostly that we have inside of our game project, and it's how much time is it going to take. So we're going to say for basic setup, getting things started, we're looking at 10 minutes. Assets, we may spend about 45 minutes on. Player, maybe about 30 minutes. And this is the player, the script, the material, all the parts and pieces that make each one of these things. An enemy, which is an asteroid that will be falling from the screen. The menu screens, the GUI, the build, and the build is how long it will take to get things set up and prepped and ready. The review, basically just a quality assurance type thing where we can go in, make sure that the game plays, does what we want it to do, and then do somewhat of a post-mortem so that we can kind of think back, what went well, what could we do to improve it. The high concept. So when we have these documents, we want to talk about what is this high concept? What is the main idea of our project? Can we write that down into one sentence or one paragraph? And for us, we're looking at a space shooter where the player must avoid asteroids that try to destroy their ship. Score as many points as you can by shooting the asteroids in a given amount of time. So here we have a basic high concept. We're going to have a basic spaceship that's going to fly around. As it's flying around, we'll have asteroids that fall down and try to destroy it. And we've got to be able to avoid and shoot and score some points while we're playing. The next thing we have is, what are my controls? How do I control? How do I get around here? We've got this just arrow keys to move the player's ship left, right, up, and down. Spacebar shoots the player as a weapon. And C is going to create a temporary shield for protecting the player. The next thing we have is like an asset list. This is like an asset database. We have a mock-up assets. We're going to be working with a player ship, an asteroid, a bullet, a shield, some blocks, and explosions. So we'll dig into each and every one of those. And just as a side note, each one of these assets that we're going to be creating, it's going to have support files. Again, like we said before, it's going to have materials. It'll have the audio, script files, whatever it is that that asset needs to make it what it's going to be. That's what we're going to be putting in there. So this is our project description. This gives us a general idea, a pretty good idea of what it is we're about to create. And from here, we're going to start creating all of the assets, get those set up first, get the naming convention down, figure out how we're going to set up our project folders, and then jump into the actual making of this project. And we'll start up with that next.